Hey everyone. Welcome to the Women of a Particular Age podcast. We have women's views, the life lessons, and other sugar honey iced tea. Once again, thank you for joining us today. My name is Tara. Here's my co-host Heather. Heather, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Tara. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm so happy. So first and foremost, before we get started, let's make sure that we thank we thank Jolly Studios. Thanks to my husband for the intro and the outro. We appreciate him. He's the one that makes the music for this. So ladies and gentlemen, if you ever need someone to do some background music for you, please, you can always email me. I'll go ahead and post it up at the end of our podcast. He's always willing to make some beats and make some music for you. So awesome. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started. So we decided that today, what we wanted to talk about today was empty nesters. Since there's so many different types of empty nesters, what we wanted to talk about is one type of empty nester is when your kids go off to college, or maybe they're just moving out, okay? Or maybe you have a type of empty nester where it's your children are there, but they're different ages and they're stair stepping leaving the home. Or maybe you're a widow or a widower, and maybe your spouse has passed, and you're trying to rebuild your life from that. Or guess what? Maybe you're an older adult who is taking care of an elderly parent, and your parent passes away, and you have to rebuild from there. So what I wanted us to talk about this because I know for me, I have two children and I had my mother who passed away. And how mine was is my kids, they stair stepped. I had my daughter, then my son left, and then ultimately my mother went on to glory. Heather, let's talk about yours in your situation as far as empty nester.
Yeah, so I have two sons. They're 14 years apart, and one, while living at home, did college, and then ended up leaving the home not until he was 30.
Hmm.
And then I have my youngest son, who's 25, who decided, he didn't want to go to school, but he chose to work.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what? I wanted to discuss something one of my friends talked to me about. One of my friends whose child went off to college, they had planned for since she was a baby that they were going to go and send her off to college. And at first, they had planned that she was going to go to college in California. And then God blessed him that she was able to go to an Ivy League college and it was out of state. So I know that for them, that was a transition within itself. Okay. Do you know anybody who's had to go through the same thing?
I personally haven't had anybody because yeah, I haven't had that situation come up discussing with anyone.
Yeah.
'Cause, I did have my oldest son who stayed at home, worked at the local city, and did
Yeah.
junior college, and then went to CSUN, and he did that all while
Ooh.
living here.
Ooh.
Yes, and he got a degree in sociology, and then
Mm-hmm.
that's when he decided to look out of the local city to go and expand his career. And so he didn't move out till he was 30,
Okay.
which, to be honest with you, I feel blessed that he was here that long. I've been blessed that both my children are good boys. And um, I don't know, like I said, I just felt like for me, because it wasn't like your friend's situation, right? Mine was that I was so excited for his future. He ended up taking a job 5 hours away, but I told him, you decide, you take the best opportunity that's around. You need to go where you need to go. And the only thing I can tell you is I was super excited. Yes, did I miss him? I did. But my
Yeah.
joy in him expanding and growing was just kind of that feeling of, missing him kind of was downplayed because I felt
Yeah.
like, okay, he's coming into his own and he's going to be successful and he's, chasing his dreams and fulfilling them. So, uh, do I miss him? Yes, of course. He visits once a month, but we do talk, on the phone. We text and talk. And so that was a situation we had here at hand.
Now let me tell you, with my children, um, the first one that ended up leaving was my daughter. Now my daughter still comes back home because we do have a spare bedroom, so she comes back just to come and spend the night, just to feel close. But she actually lives by she actually lives with her girlfriend, and they live on their own. My son, he eventually moved out eventually and transitioned into his own place. And for me, I think the hardest thing for me was with my mom, because my mom and my son were the ones that took up a lot of my time, me caregiving for both of them. So when my mom left, my emotions were all over the place. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know how I was going to move forward. I know a lot of people thought that they knew how I felt, but when you take care of, it's not just your parent, but when you take care of somebody that long as I did, I took care of my mom for 22 years. I gave up a lot of
Yeah.
things in my life just to do that.
Mhm.
It was hard. But the great thing
Mhm.
is look where we are today. We're in this podcast, and now I'm living the second half of my life. So it just seemed to be wonderful to be able to do that. So I think that it's great that we go through these transitions with our families, our children, and then guess what? Something good ends up coming out from it. So now
Right.
let's talk. Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's see. Now, to Heather, tell me this. I know that when your son moved out and you were happy about the job, how was your initial feeling? Did you have some sadness? Because I know that you guys are close.
Yes, yes. So, of course, I mean, I felt his absence. I definitely felt
Yeah.
his absence.
Yes.
And because me and my son, we've always been very close. He's the oldest, and we spent a lot of time together. And up until
Yes.
he was, beginning of high school is when I became pregnant with Ruben. So I got his,
Uh-huh.
he was basically like an only child for, 13, 14 years. So
Okay.
we did a lot of things. So we were very close in that respect. But like I said, I just felt blessed to have him here for so long, and that him leaving at 30. And like some people, I've talked to other parents, and other
Yes.
mothers and stuff. And there's different thinkings along when it's time for a child to leave the house. Some people have to
Right,
think, okay,
right,
you're
right, right, right,
18, you're out. You're
right.
18, you're out. uh, in my household and the way I was brought up and our culture is, you know what? As long as a child is, doing what they need to do, prospering, getting ready, whatever it is that they need to do, I'm allowing my children to do that at home until they're ready to, springboard out there into the real world. And when they're ready
Right.
to do that, I'm 200% behind them. And that's what I mean. Every parent wants that. They want their child to be successful. And
Correct.
and the economy's different. There's a lot of different reasons, to stay home longer. Work,
Yeah.
having to work and go to school. Like my oldest, he always
Especially
worked
now.
and he went to school. Yes, and so we helped to pay for his school, and his paternal um, grandparents helped also, with school books and things like
Yes.
that. And then my son ended up getting a master's, a year ago, and he paid
Uh-huh.
that on his own. So
Wow.
he's always been a very responsible
Hmm.
person. So, and like I said, my youngest child, I know when I was in high school, and we've talked about this in a prior podcast, I just want to
Yeah.
get out of school.
Yes.
I just wanted to grow up and get out, and I didn't want to go to school. It wasn't until I graduated, started working and working my career path that I decided, you know what? I think school's going to be a good thing for me. And it
Yes.
was. But
Yeah.
everybody's different. So I can't expect,
Correct.
my oldest is different than my youngest, and I can't impose the same two things on them. All I can do is give them the advice and let them be, good human beings and do what they need to do. So that's
Yes.
kind of where we're at. And my youngest is, he works full time. And maybe he'll make a realization later that he wants to go to school. But if he doesn't, that's okay, as long as he, expands his horizons in the workforce.
Well, I can tell you that my daughter was an A and B student. She actually could have went on to go to college, but she chose to start her own business. So currently, she's
Mhm.
like me. She works and she has her own business. We will be having her on here pretty soon. She does have her own taco business. And with my son, because he's a person that has special needs, he doesn't actually work at all. But we do all make sure that we spend time with him. Um, I'm going to be honest with you, Heather. I love it because I don't think a lot of people understand what me and you are doing right now, which is we're not just on here having a podcast just because we're older women. I want people to understand that this is the second act of our life. This is what we're doing. We're not doing this
Mhm.
because we want to generate money. If God blesses us with money, if they bless us with endorsements, that would be wonderful. But I want people to understand that we're just doing this because this is kind of like a labor of love for us. It's just really something
Yeah.
that we felt in our heart that we wanted to do. We wanted to express how we felt as older women and how we're getting older and the things that we deal with. And we just wanted to share with other people. So I'm glad that we talked about this subject. So now, since we
Yeah.
got through that, okay, all right, I think we're gonna switch on to our next subject, which is going to be, let's see, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about the movie that we saw from Netflix, which is Martha Stewart, which is Martha, okay. And what I wanted everybody to know is that this movie is on Netflix right now. It is an hour. It's an hour and 45 minutes. This movie, to me, from start to finish, was wonderful. It was riveting. I mean, I can't wait for me and Heather to talk about this movie. Okay. So I'm hoping
Mhm.
that when all you guys get a chance, that you'll go ahead and check this movie out because it really, okay. So let's get started. Give me a moment. Going back and forth. You want to make sure that you're seeing us, folks. Hold on. See, that's what happens when you older. You'll have some technical difficulties. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. I want people to know I ain't got this all the way down. Don't play now. Don't play. All right. So listen, before we get started, what do we do, Heather, before we get started? Let's get it going. Let's
A
get that
little
liquid
toast, my
courage.
friend.
All right.
Right.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. So first things first, let's talk
Mm.
about Martha. Now, folks, let me tell you something. When I first, when this first came on, when Martha first came on, when it first, in the beginning of the movie, and they start talking about Martha's family, and they start building to why how she is. It starts to let you in on why Martha's attitude and the way that she is, her upbringing is how she is as a woman. What did you feel about that, Heather? What did you feel about that part when they talked about the father
Well,
and the bigotry?
oh, yes. I believe we've talked about this before, but your family that you grow up in and the dynamic of the family and the
Yes.
personalities and the culture of
Mm-hmm.
the family itself and how they live is a
Yeah.
real big impact on children. And
Yes.
that is at the beginning of the show. I like they gave us that background into the father and into the mother as well. So she has a little bit of her dad in her, And she
Mm-hmm.
has a lot of her mom in her because the mom
Yes.
loved to cook and she worked. She was a teacher, but she always made time. She cooked every day. Martha learned from her mother. She was a good role model. And then the
Right.
dad, he was a very stern man.
Yes.
Um, they called him a bigot, she
Yes.
said, and he's just not a happy person. Was not a
Yes.
happy person. And it seemed, from what also Martha experienced, and she said, was that it wasn't an affectionate family.
Correct.
So that kind of
Correct.
gives you a little bit when you start looking into her personality and how she is.
Correct.
Now you're being able to really read her and say, oh, okay, this is why she
Correct.
is the way that she is because of these
Yes.
different traits, things that she picked up from her family.
Right. Right. And I just want everybody to understand that you have this father. Yes, he was a bigot, but he also taught her gardening. And then you have this mother. So you're getting the education of the gardening, and then you're getting the skill
Yes,
of the cooking. And then you also have a
yes,
mother who is a school teacher. I don't think how many people have all of that. How could we not expect
right,
Martha Stewart to become Martha Stewart, not be Martha Stewart, if your
right.
father teaches you to garden, your mother teaches you to cook, and your mother's a school teacher? I mean, Heather,
Yes.
it didn't get any better than that. Okay.
It's like
On
a
the good side of
formula, It's like a formula, a great
it. Right,
formula, you know, that was created, and there's
right,
Martha Stewart,
right,
embodying all these things and her love and
correct.
passion for it. She became very passionate about it. So, yes.
Can I tell you something? When I was watching this movie, I think what brought me so much joy is that I want people to understand that Martha Stewart has made millions of dollars of just being a homemaker. That's it. She's
Yeah.
made millions of
Yes.
dollars of mastering being a homemaker. And the way that she puts everything together. I mean, now that we'll go ahead and just move on because I don't want to get good too far in. I
Yes.
want people to know a little bit more about
Right.
her. So once they move on into the movie, about her and her relationships, not just with her relationship with her husband,
Yes.
but her relationship with her daughter. Then it kind of brings it back around for you. The way that her father treated her is what she brought out in her relationships with her husband and her daughter. What do you think, Heather?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I do know that, when she married her husband, she fell in love. She fell in
Yes.
love hard. Um, and before they end up getting divorced, they were together for like
And
27
27
years.
years, right? They
Uh,
were together for 27 years.
yes. Now, one thing that I liked was that with her husband, when they got married, they went on a technically a honeymoon for 5 months to Europe.
Girl,
And I
when
liked
she said
where
5 months, she made
five
it
months
seem
to
like it
Europe.
was nothing.
I was like, wow. Yeah, like nothing. And I'm going, gosh, that's like a
I
fantasy
was
to be
blown
able to
away.
go. And she got to really enjoy. And I think that's where she started, with looking at architecture,
Yes,
gardens, food,
right,
and that kind of just that passion she had already in her just kind of expanded and came out. So
right,
I think it was I think it was like a big stepping stone for her in making a realization like, hey, I have this passion for this. And then to to boot, I mean, she's excellent at it. She's
right,
born, to be Martha Stewart, the home queen. She's so good at that. But
correct.
the other thing is during that honeymoon, because I did want to bring this up because it was interesting. Was
Yes,
it was Easter? I guess it was Easter, and her husband didn't want to go to cathedral, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so she ended up going by herself. And she said she was fully immersed in the cathedral with the paintings and the beautiful windows. And there was lots of people in a crowd. She felt very touched emotionally. And this
Mm-hmm.
is where she connected with what she says, a handsome man who caught
Right.
her eye, he caught
Right.
hers. And they ended up kissing. So, and she's asked, oh, she kind of brought up, I guess the person that was asking her the question, she said, oh, are you implying like naughty or infidelity? And she was saying, no, it had nothing to do with that. She was caught up in the moment of this beautiful moment. Now, maybe if her husband would have been there, maybe she would have felt that with him. But he wasn't there. She's 19 years old, young, beautiful, and here's this handsome man, and they hit it off and they're talking.
Yeah.
And for some reason, there was probably some sort of connection. And just being in that environment and then just kissing, I really just liked that story. It was just like, to me, it sounded so genuine, which
Yeah.
the way she was saying it, you know,
So now
it's just like
listen,
it was a
I'm glad that
moment.
you
Like,
I'm
and
I'm
I'm,
glad that you brought that up because that kind of I want to move us on to where her and her
mm-hmm.
husband, they're going to divorce, but they're also going back and forth about the cheating. Now the reason why I want to get into this is
Yeah,
because I did think it was innocent, but she also had some history of being unfaithful. But I noticed in the movie
yeah.
she kind of downplayed her parts of being unfaithful,
Oh,
but she
oh,
upplayed,
she did
but she
his
upplayed
unfaithfulness. Yes,
exactly, and
yes,
his unfaithfulness,
right.
which I thought was a little odd, which I thought was a little odd. But I was like,
Yes,
okay, what did you feel about? How did you
yes.
feel about that?
Well, definitely, you know, what she had said, other than that kiss in the cathedral, was meeting a handsome, because she always says, I met a handsome Irishman. And it was a
Yes,
very brief flame.
yes,
So maybe, it was just brief. They had an attraction. It was probably some sort of, sexual attraction, their eyes locked in and they just had that chemistry. That's at least that's what she made it sound like. And that it was it. That she wasn't looking like to divorce her husband, leave her husband. It happened. And then she left it alone. It was a one time thing and that was it. And then in her eyes, I mean, she did explain that her husband had cheated quite a bit. So I don't know, if that was just the one incident with her, but she did downplay quite a bit. So maybe it was just the one time, but
I have no
the
clue. I
husband
have no clue.
apparently, yeah,
I have
we
no
have no
clue. I
idea.
just
Only
wanted to
those two
make
people know.
sure. I have no clue. I just wanted to make sure that we highlighted that every time she was unfaithful, she made it seem like it was nothing. So I just wanted to make
Well,
sure
that's what
that
she
when people
said.
see it,
It was like it's
yeah,
nothing. It's nothing. That was kind
exactly,
of how she said it. It's nothing. It was nothing. Like
correct,
just brushed it off. It was nothing. So okay.
right. So I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that that's how she kind of said it was nothing, it was no big deal. All right, so
But
this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna
let me just add one more little thing. The one thing I wanted to add was that she had that lady move into the back cottage, the barn. You
yes,
remember
yes, I do
that
remember.
she was losing her place, and then that lady
Yeah,
had an affair with her husband, and then she found
correct.
out, and she was not happy about it. She thought it was her
That's right.
friend, and friends don't do that, and she
Mm-hmm.
kicked her out. She kicked her
Right,
out. Yes. So I just thought
right,
I'd mention that one. I thought that one was like,
right,
wow,
right,
okay, well, I'd be mad
right.
too. So can't blame her.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would be mad too, but I'm going to be honest with you. I wouldn't, me as a person, I wouldn't have never had someone live on my property in the first place.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Not
So,
bringing anybody there? No. Thank you. No. You have a situation, you need to go find your solution. It's not going to be in
Exactly.
my household. Hmm.
Exactly. I just thought that
I
that was a
agree.
bad move altogether. So you open the door up for disaster right there. Okay. All right. So because we don't want to tell them all of the movie, let's move on
Right.
to because I want us to talk
Yes.
just very briefly about the court case so we can get towards the end. So let's
Yeah.
talk about the court case now. Let's talk about, did Martha lie or did she not lie? That's the question. Okay. She stated that she didn't lie. She stated all the way through. She didn't lie. I didn't
Hmm.
lie. I didn't lie. But what ends up happening is the person that she's doing business with, his assistant calls her, gives her a tip. She gets the tip. She sells, and then when she's on a trip, she tells her best friend. Heather, you take it from there.
Yes. Okay. So now let's just let everyone know Martha Stewart used to work as a stockbroker many years ago.
Yes,
All right.
yes,
She has
yes,
experience and the knowledge. And when she did it, she was good. But she had
yes,
a failing with Levitt's stock. And then,
yes,
she kind of decided to get out of that because it affected
yes,
a lot of people in not a very good
yes,
way. And she didn't feel good
yes.
about it. So remember, she
That's right.
was a stockbroker. So she
That's right.
knows the rules that you need to play by. Okay. So I'm just going to take it back to 2001, where Martha, her stockbroker and CEO of a company called I'm Clone Systems, and they
Okay.
got investigated for um, inside trading. All
Yes.
right. So at that time, Martha was given a plea deal by the district attorney's office. A
Okay.
plea deal. Okay.
Yes.
She had a chance to plead guilty to just one of the charges, which was making a false statement to a federal investigator. That
Right.
was one of
Right.
the four charges. She said, no, I
Right.
want to go to court and I want to go to trial, because she was also charged with
Right.
making a false statement a couple of times.
Right.
And she could have, you know what, with the plea deal, she would have just gotten probation, but she
Yes.
didn't want that. She wanted to take it to court. And so,
Yeah.
moving fast forward to March 5th, 2004, she's found
Mm-hmm.
guilty of conspiracy, obstruction of justice, making two counts of false statements to
Mm.
a federal investigator. And, so they found her guilty. So she was sentenced to 5 months in
Yes.
jail, 5 months
Yes.
house arrest, and she had
Yes.
to pay a $30,000 fine. And
Right.
I did read
Right.
up a little bit more, and you can definitely look it up. But she also had a civil suit where she had to pay a lot
Ooh.
more money out. Okay,
Okay.
that wasn't mentioned in there, but if you guys Google, you want to find more information, you could definitely find a lot of information about this case. Now, the broker, who was Peter Bakanovic, he had to pay
Mm-hmm.
$645 to the SEC, a drop in
Uh-huh.
the bucket. But
Mm-hmm.
he also had a civil penalty, and he had to pay $75,000. So that's
Okay.
what happened as far as the case itself, and the charges and time that she had to serve, and what happened to the broker.
Okay. Let's do this. Let's give everybody our take of what we think. So what my take is for to wrap this up as far as with Martha is that I understand in the movie they stated that she was a bitch, and they talked about all of her good qualities and all of her bad qualities. But I'm going to be honest with you, Heather. All of those qualities made her who she is. So I just think that sometimes we should really be careful how we speak about people and give people grace, because Martha Stewart wouldn't be Martha Stewart if she didn't have the good and the bad qualities. Those are what make her who she is. I know that it might be we all of us can't appreciate that, But we could, if we look at everybody and not be so judgmental and just understand that we're all different. God gives us all different gifts to come together and to make something special. What do you think about what did you think about her, Heather? So we can wrap this up for her.
Well, what I think about her, I mean, she had some tenacity, and
Yes,
she was a awesome businesswoman. Now,
yes,
here's the thing. Back in those days, now she ended up being the first woman billionaire. Now,
yes,
her traits, her personality, let me tell you something. That's very common among men in the big
yes,
business world. But when you're a
exactly.
woman and you say or do those things, then you are the bee, okay? Even
Mm-hmm.
though men do the exact same thing and have been doing it
Right,
forever, and a woman
right,
comes along and now you're a bee. Well, you have to
right,
be a certain way to be in the big boy club, to break that
right,
ceiling glass, to get to
right,
where they are, if that's what your goal is.
right.
And you have to do what you need to do. And I have to tell you, she's very courageous, and she's very
Yes,
motivated. And I
yes,
just kudos to her for doing
that's
that.
right.
Now, as far as a
Much respect.
businesswoman,
Much respect.
much respect. Now, the only thing is, I know that a lot they were saying about her not being so nice to her
Yes.
employees. That
Yeah,
was because
yeah,
she said she's a perfectionist. She wants
yes,
perfection from not only herself, but she expects it from
yes,
others. That's
yes.
how she is. That's Martha
Okay,
Stewart. It's not
okay.
nice. We don't like it. It's not, pretty. But guess what? No one's perfect.
That's
So
right. No one's perfect.
she's the
Okay.
package. That's her package. I mean, that's what she is. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, all right. So, folks, when you get a chance, go ahead and go see Martha on Netflix. Is playing right now. And also, too, we wanted to tell you about something that's coming up soon for the Women of a Particular Age podcast. We're going to be joining up with a young man. His name is Jamil, and he is from the Xavier LaRue Entertainment Group. And we'll be collaborating with him, and we'll be coming together, and we'll be doing some podcasts with him from time to time. Okay, so look for that. We do have some other things, but we want to keep them under wraps. We don't want to tell you too much. Once again, my name is Tara. Here's my co host, Heather. Thank you so much for
Yes.
joining us on WOPA.
Thank
We
you.
please, if you can, like, share, and subscribe. We really do appreciate you coming on this journey with us. And listen, have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye bye.